Ladies and gentlemen, so thrilled to be with you. It's like an oxygen shower every time that you're in the Vatican Youth Symposium. I was lucky enough to be there a couple of years back, and today again. So I'll use my first couple of minutes to tell you why I'm thrilled to be here. I'm the CEO of the Ban Ki-moon Center, and maybe you recognize on that picture the person in the middle, JFK, probably all of you recognize him. You might not know the guy who is circled in red in the very back, because it's the young Ban Ki-moon. He was 17 when this happened. We are beaming back to the year 1933, that was already mentioned today. We're on the White House lawn, and JFK is addressing a group of young changemakers, such as yours, and one of them is Ban Ki-moon. And what JFK said at this moment inspired Ban Ki-moon so much that he became what he became, Secretary General of the United Nations. What JFK said was, we find ourselves in a time of war. Cold War is keeping the world in its hard clutch. You guys, you young ones, you can talk to each other. We old ones, we can't because we are at war. But you can stretch out your hands, you can learn from each other, and you can give a hand and lend others support. You can be of service to communities. And little Ban Ki-moon was so inspired by that he pursued a public career, then later on became Minister of Foreign Affairs of Korea, and of course was selected to be the United Nations Secretary General. And he stayed there for 2 terms. And probably what he will remain famous for is not only the achievement of the SDGs, but also the Paris Climate Agreement, amongst others like UN Women, and particularly his support also for the LGBTQIA+ community. So this Kennedy moment that shaped him is what he wants to give back. And he's now retired, but he has the Ban Ki-moon Center and other great entities. And he wants to give back this Kennedy moment, well knowing that he's not JFK, but at least that he hopefully can inspire other change makers to do their best for the Sustainable Development Goals and Paris Climate Agreement. So this is exactly what we do. The Ban Ki-moon Center strongly believes that we do need to foster the empowerment of youth and women, and that education is absolutely fundamental to achieve the SDGs. It's about the knowledge, the skills, and the values that come with this kind of education. Now, I do want to argue that each and everyone who is part of our program does acquire, and already many of them have it, but they acquire a nice new tune on analytical thinking, problem solving, because they spot a challenge and they actually solve it in their own community. They also have to showcase lots of flexibility and resilience. Times are shifting and changing. COVID made many of their programs actually more difficult. And they have to show leadership skills, because each and every one of them is actually influencing a whole community. So we are working very much like STSN to inspire young change makers to show agency, to drive action. There are many ways to do that. Obviously, they can be found in formal and informal sectors, but we are particularly eager to instill some kind of mindset of activism in young people. And you might have heard about, of course, you know SDSN, but there is also JCI, there is Global Citizen, there is YMCA, there are the Scouts. So there are many informal learning platforms where this agency is often driven even faster, even better than in schooling programs. So we as Ban Ki-moon Center managed to go to the field. Here you see Lilian Nakigozi in Uganda, Kampala, where she is teaching slum dwellers how to vertically farm, for example. We go into the field to Tanzania. Here you see Suhura to the very, very right from my angle, who is a seaweed farmer, teaching communities of ladies who don't have access to land how to seaweed farm sustainably. Here you see our dear friend Winifred from Nigeria, who is teaching girls about the menstrual cycle and about how to use sanitary pads that actually are environmentally friendly. And here you see our friend Ismail in Ethiopia teaching young people about road safety, because there are no regulations yet in country even to buckle up, seemingly. Ismail says that it's not a given that kids would buckle up, let alone their school ways are really, really sometimes difficult and dangerous simply. So we are in the field, but fortunately we are also in the classrooms. We are working with teachers, we are working with expert learners. Here you see Shanta, who is teaching in Malaysia a class on global citizenship and how if you combine certain elements, you get more strong than if you have just single elements. Here you see S.G. Ban himself and even myself in a school in the UAE that have basically adjusted the whole curriculum towards the SDGs, and it's beautiful to see these examples that it's actually rolling out and happening around the world. Here you see a classroom in Vienna of an Asian cohort that we assembled with amazing changemaker stories, and I could talk for an hour about each of them, but it's really, they are still in touch. They have met in 2019, and some of them had to flee Afghanistan, their home country in the meantime. Others have managed to gather hundreds of thousands in their online communities towards the SDGs. So yes, we do offer quite a lot of things, and my appeal to all of you guys here is, please, kindly, when we are announcing, be it an online course, be it a fellowship, be it a scholarship, be it an opportunity for young people, kindly share it with your networks, or even apply yourself. We are always eager to amplify voices such as yours, but also your communities, the people that you know simply. I do want to draw your attention to something quite serious and connect why I believe our kind of education really can change the world. The serious bit here is the Global Risk Report of the World Economic Forum. And the World Economic Forum has analyzed what people see as the major risks short-term and long-term. And in the short term, people are actually, in the 2 years segment that you see on your left, people say the biggest risk is misinformation and disinformation. That's the top. In the longer run, you see green mark all of the environmental risks. So in the longer run, we will have a challenge to biodiversity, I don't know whether you can read the actual indications, but it's environmental indicators. What is interesting about that is that S.G. Ban not only anticipated that, but he was always eager to teach what is now supposed to be the core skills of 2025. So if you're looking at, again, a WEF report of what are actually the skills that we need to tackle these massive risks that we currently encounter, you will find that analytical thinking, resilience and flexibility, and leadership skills currently still rank as core skills. Creative thinking is then coming a bit later, and even technological literacy is somewhere down on 6th rank. However, interestingly enough, if you look at the development of the core skills, you will see that the top 10 fastest growing skills by 2030, according to the WEF, are AI and data skills. Second one is also, it's networks and cybersecurity. Third one is the technological literacy, and only then comes the creative thinking, the resilience, the curiosity, etc. So what we will see within the next 5 years is that the skill set that many of us have acquired, or that even we are right now particularly putting an emphasis on in the Ban Ki-moon Center, actually is changing. So what the WEF has found is that we are looking into an era of disruption of skills. 39% of worker core skills will have to change by 2030. Being aware of that, I want to close by saying we are fortunate as Ban Ki-moon Center to influence in the meantime 2.5 million people that have benefited from our changemakers' work. And Bessie, for example, who is sitting with us here, is one of them. So thank you so much, Bessie, for all that you have been doing with us. What we do need to do is we have to assess these skills, because exactly the skills that have been listed are needed to tackle misinformation, disinformation. You need analytical thinking. You do need data and AI. You do need good leadership. You do need creativity. For another big risk of state-led conflict, I didn't read it out, but it was there on the list, you need leadership, particularly sane leadership that is taking data and the rest into account. And of course, for all of the environmental list that we had, the extreme weather events, the biodiversity, the critical change to Earth systems, obviously, you do need the core skills of 2025, but you also need the core skills of 2030. And how do we get there? I want to have conversations with each and every one of you, which programs we could launch together to actually help in this skill shift. Thank you very much.